Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth Cevada, Program Associate with Candid, and I'm joined today by Andres Solorzano, Senior Manager of Chief Executives for Corporate Purposes, Data Insights Team. Thank you for joining me today, Andre.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're really excited to have you joining us for our upcoming digital classroom titled Forging Partnerships with Corporate Leaders to Drive Social Impact. And we're excited to invite everyone to join us on August 8th for that training. So I wanted to get the conversation started by asking you a little bit about the CECP's Giving in Numbers survey. I know you'll be sharing some of the corporate giving trends that have come out of it, but I wanted to know, how will these trends inform how nonprofits approach corporate donors?
Absolutely. So we'll be releasing the Giving Numbers 2019 edition in the fall of this year, more specifically in October. So this webinar will help companies and also potential grant applicants to understand what are the latest trends that are influencing the decision making at the world's largest companies. And when we say world's companies, we are referring to companies with annual revenues of at least $2 billion. Some of these companies actually are part of the Fortune 500 ranking. So this will help all the listeners of the webinar to understand what are the most influential program areas or key trend topics in the CSR world of these companies.
I think that's going to be really helpful to understand what's happening at those very top levels, because of course they're influencing what's happening within other corporations as well. So another question that I wanted to ask you, Andre, is what's been the biggest shift that you've seen within corporate social responsibility in recent years, and how will this webinar help prepare nonprofits to respond or prepare for this change?
So we wouldn't like nonprofits to leave this webinar without knowing what has happened to corporate giving. Has it decreased or decreased? So personally, what I think is one of the most important trends is to realize that corporate giving has been increasing. Particularly, total giving from the world's largest firms has increased by 17% in the course of the last 5 years. So that's a really important trend. And when we say total giving, we are referring to cash and non-cash contributions from this really large corporations. Another important trend is that particularly in 2018, aggregate contributions from these companies added up to $26 billion, which is technically equivalent to the gross domestic product of any middle-income country in the world.
Well, thank you so much, Andre. So what's that one thing that participants will be able to do right after the webinar to get started?
So the main thing I would say is this webinar will help to understand important corporate social responsibility trends and strategies that will help all the participants in the webinar to cultivate lasting partnerships with the corporate social responsibility executives among this world's largest firms.
That's great. I know that's always the common ask, is how do I start building that relationship? But I think understanding how they're giving is really important to know how you can start having that conversation. And Andre, we always love our participants to get to know our instructors a little bit before the day of the webinar. So I wanted to ask you, how have you been unwinding this summer?
So this summer is all about giving numbers, writing the report, doing the analysis, doing research on the different CSR trends. So what helps me unwind during those really short weekends is to go to the beach. Any place with a beach definitely helps. So particularly in New York, the places that I love going to is Asbury Park. I also go to the Rockaways, and that really helps me unwind and just disconnect for a bit.
That's great, especially in a city like New York. Just getting close to nature wherever you can always kind of brings everyone kind of back to center wherever you can.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your expertise with us today, Andre. I'm excited to continue learning more on August 8th, and we invite everyone who's been watching online to join us as well. We want to make sure that everyone knows to go to grantspace.org by July 31st to take advantage of our early bird pricing for this webinar. And remember, if you can't join us live, we encourage you to register. That way you can get the recording of the webinar sent to you directly. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you.